What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, medium rare, fatty, amazing smoked tomahawk ribeye with some smoky cowboy butter. Coming up. This is a steak. Patted dry. And what I've got here is an absolute beast of a steak. This is a tomahawk from Snake River Farms, and I gotta say, this thing is looking absolutely beautiful and quite gigantic, weighing in right around 3 pounds, which I'm pretty pumped about because I haven't cooked a giant tomahawk like this in quite a while. And what's not to love here? You know, big fatty steak like this on the bone, great presentation. You can feed a whole bunch of people with this thing, or just 2 hungry dudes. But we're gonna make this even more special today because we're gonna knock out a cowboy butter, which should add even more richness and flavor. Get a little smoke on this bad boy, sear it off. Should be a fun day. But first things first, we're gonna give this bad boy a once over, see if there's anything we wanna trim away or take down. Right over here is looking a little frayed, so I might just round this off a little bit. Although it does look pretty nice right out of the package. Fat cap is looking pretty good, maybe a little thick. Might take that down just a little bit, but not too much. This is a pretty fatty steak in general, so I don't think we need all that much of a fat cap on there. And we are dipping this in butter at the end of the day anyway. But that's looking pretty good to me. But other than some slight trimming, I think I might tie this up too, because this is a big steak. We got some separate muscles in here that may want to pull apart during the cooking process. So we're gonna go ahead and bust out some butcher's twine, and we're just gonna go right around this bad boy just for a little extra stability. Help keep its shape, help keep it together, all that good stuff. Tie it off, snip the tip. There it is, all tied up, feeling a little more stable now. So now all we need to do is get this bad boy seasoned up. And typically with a big steak like this, I would do a dry brine where I salt it today, let the salt penetrate overnight, and then cook it tomorrow, which is a great option because it's such a thick piece of meat. Having that salt penetrate as deeply as possible is always a good idea, but that takes planning that I didn't do, and I want to eat this thing today. So we're gonna go ahead and use my second favorite way of seasoning a steak, which is good old-fashioned Chuds BBQ steak rub. I love this stuff. It's super flavorful. And this rub is designed to enhance the flavor of any steak without overpowering the natural beefy flavors, because we want to taste that meat. But it's also great because the salt levels are dialed in to where you can go on super heavy with this stuff and you really don't have to worry about over seasoning it. You know, you could probably just take a regular sized steak and dunk it in this rub, and it always comes out perfectly seasoned, which is very convenient. It takes a lot of the guesswork out, because a lot of times I'll just kind of eyeball the amount of salt going on to something, and I've gotten pretty good at it over the years, but there's still times where you oversalt it or undersalt it, and this just takes all the guesswork out while adding a little more savory flavor to your piece of meat. But of course, salt and pepper would work just fine, or an SPG. And with a big piece of meat like this, even if we did dry brine it, we're still probably gonna have to hit this with some flaky salt at the end anyway, because it is so thick. Although not today, because we're gonna be making a cowboy butter in a minute. But just a nice heavy coating of this stuff, basically as much that will stick will be perfect. Top and bottom, and we're not gonna forget the sides. Twould be a rookie move, and that is looking pretty much perfect to me. And now that our steak is rubbed down, we're gonna set this aside for a little bit to let that rub start working on the meat while we go ahead and fire up the pit. And while that pit comes up to temp, let's go ahead and get our cowboy butter started. I'm going into a pot with 2 sticks of butter, and by 2 I mean 4. And now we gotta melt this down. And we could just throw this on a burner and melt it down, but I think it's gonna be a lot tastier if we throw this whole thing on the pit. Got the old Chud pit 65-gallon fired up today, post-oak fire, so we're gonna throw these in and let them melt, and if we get a little extra smoky flavor on there, I think that'll be great. And while that melts, Nick, I saw a life hack the other day that if you put thyme on a screen, it picks it for you. It barely worked. And now that our butter is nice and melted and smelling nice and smoky, in we go with all of our ingredients for our cowboy butter, including some shallot, some garlic, the zest from 1 lemon, the juice of that very same lemon, some chives, some freshly chopped thyme, parsley, a shot of some Dijon mustard, a pinch of some red chili flakes for a little bit of heat, as well as some paprika, mostly for color. And get that all nice and mixed up. And of course, you can taste and adjust this to your personal preference, depending on how spicy or how zesty you want it to be. But I'm also gonna go in with a little bit of freshly cracked black pepper. And essentially what we just made is a melted compound butter. If we were gonna make a proper compound butter, we would have used softened butter and then put this in cling wrap and rolled it up, popped it in the fridge so we could cut it into little pats of some lovely seasoned butter. But Cowboy Butter is served more like a sauce, which is something I've never done before, but it sounds like a great idea. Loving the color of this stuff, nice and chunky. You could leave it just like this, or you could do what I'm gonna do and toss it back on the pit for a little bit to stay warm, stay melted, add a little more smoke flavor, and also start to cook those garlic and shallots down a little bit. But I'm not really trying to brown them or anything like that. But I will say, very tasty stuff. I also use salted butter, so I don't need to add any salt to this, but you may have to if you use unsalted butter. And back to our giant steak here. This thing is looking pretty much exactly the same, but that rub is definitely adhered a little bit better and looking nicely seasoned. But I'm gonna bust out one of my favorite tools as of late, which is the good old-fashioned Thermworks RFX. And you eagle-eyed viewers may have seen this little guy popping up here and there on the channel for the last couple of months, and I gotta say, I've been loving it. And traditionally, I'm not really a big fan of the leave-in probe thermometers because they just don't work very well, but this one has been a bit of a game changer, especially here at the Chud shop where we're cooking on a 1/4-inch thick steel pit out there, and then we're hanging out in here through this concrete wall. All the other probe thermometers I've tried have not been able to do that, but this one works very well and it's incredibly thin. Highly recommend it if you don't have one of these. Not sponsored, just a fan, but I'm definitely gonna be using this today because for a big thick steak like this, we're gonna be doing the reverse sear on the smoker, and being able to monitor temps from in here where it's not 29 degrees outside is gonna be very nice. So this will be coming in very handy today. So just gonna aim right for the center of this bad boy, just like that. Now to the smoker. Got this pit fired up to about 225, 250 right about now. It'll likely go up, but on the smoker we go. Gonna aim the bone side towards the fire just to absorb a little bit more heat, so hopefully we get some more even cooking on the rest of this bad boy. Also gonna toss our Cowboy Butter right next to it to get some more smoke flavor and cook down a little bit more. Shut this down, and we should be aiming for an internal temperature of around 120 on that Tomahawk, building some nice smoky flavors and bringing it up to a beautiful medium rare. So, time to get out of the cold. And because I am being such a weenie about the cold today, I got the ambient probe thermometer stuck in there too, which is super convenient. So now I can go inside and know the exact temperature of the smoker as well as the meat while I hang out with Nick. And I gotta say, I do love that separated ambient probe as opposed to the ones that are built in, because this one is a lot more accurate. Very convenient. And while we wait for that steak to cook away, I think it's time for another episode of Bones Try Something Weird. What's on the menu today, buddy?
Got some options here. These were sent over by Ivor, aka Tuna Head.
Tuna Head?
I don't know.
That's a great nickname.
Yeah.
Appreciate the note. What do we got?
So we got little fish with chili. This one looks, yep, it's Italian.
Ooh.
It's fun. Got wild burgundy snails.
Ooh. Is that
Canned
escargot?
snails, yeah. 2 dozen very large. Antarctic krill meat, which I'm pretty sure is what whales eat.
Yeah.
Like tiny shrimp things. And then dung beetles.
Oh.
We've had bugs before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've been doing a lot of bugs lately.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go with one of these. What are you thinking?
I mean, I've never had krill meat before.
I'm worried it's gonna be like that super salty shrimp.
Probably.
Remember that like fermented shrimp stuff that Joe had?
That you almost had a sodium overdose
Yeah,
from?
that stuff was so salty.
Well, we got crackers, right?
Yeah, or I mean, canned snails. We haven't done that yet.
That's true.
I say we try it.
All right, let's do it. I bet they look very appetizing. Oh, they look like the freaking cockles from the other day.
They do, just bigger.
Even better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a juicy one.
Yeah, I think a fork would have been a better choice.
That's got a smell. It looks like the head from the alien in Aliens.
That does have a weird smell. Ugh. Okay.
Ooh.
Tastes like dust.
Oh, good.
It's like really musty. Tastes like laundry that's been sitting out too long.
Why do I always let you go first? With a descriptor like that, how do I follow?
Honestly, that's probably the worst one I've had.
Really?
It's really bad.
Wow, we finally found something weird enough for you.
Oh, man. I don't know if it's just like
Are we supposed to like
bad
cook 'em?
batch. I don't think so. Oof. The aftertaste is fine, but like it just tastes so musty.
Oh. All right, dusty laundry, you say, huh? It's not overtly bad.
Really? Maybe I had a bad one.
Maybe. It's bland with a hint of meh.
Definitely needs salt.
I was going to say it's very unseasoned.
Yeah.
Why don't you have another one and see if you had a bad one?
Okay.
You want me to get some salt for you, bud? Put a little snake bite on there?
Nope.
Oh, out it comes. The first reversal on a Bones Try Something Weird.
God, I had high hopes for that one.
Yeah, yeah. Ugh. All right, well, thank you, Tuna Head. Appreciate you. And after a surprisingly long time, at least a couple hours, big thick steak. Don't cook these often. Pulled the butter off a little while ago, but this bad boy is reading right around 125, 126 internal, and coming off the pit and looking absolutely beautiful. Definitely got some smoke flavor on there. So now we're gonna let this carry over and rest for a little bit. I'm thinking a nice medium rare, around 125, 130 should be good for that bad boy. It will probably carry over a couple degrees, but we still need to put a good sear on that. So I'm gonna take the coals out of that smoker and throw them into that grill right there and get a nice crust on this thing. Chud shovel. This grill is now smoking hot, as you can see. Ooh, God, look at this big bad boy. Looks good enough to eat already, but we gotta get a good crust on it. Nice even pressure, nice hot fire. Don't want to overcook this thing, although I don't think we could at this point because it's so thick. But damn, it smells good already. Doubt this thing needs any help with a little sprayable Wagyu beef tallow. Never hurt anybody. Oh God, it's too cold out here for the sprayable fat. Beautiful crust on that. Got a little kiss on that fat cap too, but look at that thing. Oh, that is beautiful. Love that color. The slight redness from the smoke. And just like that, I think that is a sufficient sear. So off the pit this comes. And here it is back inside, folks. Loving the color on that, loving the char. The bone didn't get too dirty or anything like that. And the RFX is still in there, but this thing is rocking at its final temp, 136 degrees, which is a little bit higher than I take my typical steaks, but this is a big, thick, fatty ribeye, so I think with the extra fat in there, going a little bit higher is a good thing, and we're still smack dab in the middle of medium rare, so this should be a beautiful steak. Big, juicy steak. All right, let's go for it. First things first, off the bone she comes. Beautiful. Smelling nice and smoky. We're just gonna go right on down. And by that I mean you could separate the spinalis, but who's got time for that? Ooh yeah, that looks pretty good to me. That is my only main problem with probe thermometers is you get that little butthole in there still, but you know what? For the convenience of knowing what we're doing on a very cold day, I can live with it, but good God, this is feeling tender. Look how juicy that is. Oh man, this is cutting like a brisket. It's so tender, it's crazy. Nice and soft. One more look up close. Check out that smoke ring we've got on the bottom. That's pretty cool. Nice and fatty, decently well marbled. Juicy, looking medium rare to me. That is a ridiculous spread of some tomahawk ribeye, but of course, we can't forget about our cowboy butter. So we're gonna go into this little jar here. Just look at all the chunkies in there. Oh yeah. Garlic, thyme, some heat from the chili flakes, some acidity from the lemon. A lot of good chunks in there. That's gonna be a good little dipping sauce. And if we wanted to, we could just take a little bit and just go, oops. But I'll refrain from putting too much on there so we can experience the dip. And there it is in all its glory, folks. A beautiful medium rare, super thick, fatty tomahawk ribeye off the smoker, hit on the grill with some smoky cowboy butter. And yeah, I'm ready to dive on in. Are you ready? Yeah. Before we go ahead dipping into that cowboy butter, let's just take one more look at that beautiful medium rare, barky, crusty, tender piece of meat and see how it is on its own. That is so buttery. It melts. That might be one of the most tender ribeyes I've ever made because that is just fantastic. And then if we go to the end here, that one looks like Wagyu. Look how fatty that is. Quick little bite. Oh God. The seasoning is phenomenal. The smoke flavor is there. I mean, the smoke ring alone, albeit hard to see on camera, is fantastic. Bark is perfect. That is just a really good steak. I mean, look at that chunk of meat right there. Tell me you don't want a bite of that. Nick, what are you doing over there? You gotta come eat some of this.
Wow. I was expecting overly smoky.
Me too. We talked about it.
This is the perfect amount of smoke. Oh, yes, this is amazing. And it's so tender.
It's tender, right?
I bit across the grain so easily.
I always talk about steaks being tender, but it's never tender like barbecue is tender. This also isn't nearly like brisket level tender, but as far as steaks go, that is very good.
Wow. This is really good.
I was saying earlier that I was not excited to eat a super smoky steak because usually I'm all about just like charcoal flavor. I'll save the smoke for the barbecue, and seeing how this was on there for so long, I was worried that it was going to be a smoke bomb, but a very welcome addition. That is fantastic.
we've been talking about sandwiches. I think this would make an amazing sandwich because of how tender it is. The smoke flavor is like, it's not overpowering. It would be great on some bread, like some crusty bread with a sauce. You don't need cheese.
Coming up! Speaking of sauce, though, we do need to test it out in the Cowboy Butter. But beforehand, how's the salt level on this steak?
It's phenomenal. Like, this is not over-salted. You could add more, but it's not necessary at all.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I was fully ready to bust out the flaky salt, but we have the Cowboy Butter, so we don't really need to add salt. I mean, for a thick steak like that, with just a steak rib on it, it holds up on its own.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to salt, and he knows it. He's not sensitive, so...
I'm a salt fiend.
Yeah. But this is perfect. Like, this is great for any level of salt intake, people.
Give us a nice dip in that sauce. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But usually I would dredge this over the top or make a compound butter and like melt a puck on top. But every time I see it done, it's in dip form, and I wanted to try it out.
Honestly, that brightness from that lemon, and the herbs, like that is very welcome. That's nice.
Get a bunch
of richness.
Bunch of chunkies on there. Whoa. Okay.
You'd think butter is going to be super rich, but the herbs, the lemon, garlic.
Dijon in there too.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of like a chimichurri where you're dipping it into all the herbs with the fat and the vinegar, but you're mostly just getting the herbs on the meat.
Yeah.
Like the same with this, where you're getting all the shallots and the flavor and the acidity from all the ingredients, but the butter is just there to make everything fluid.
Yeah.
Almost. And also adding more richness. Oops.
It's probably not healthy, but it tastes healthy.
This is healthy. You got a bunch of carnivore people in the audience. That is fantastic.
Yep. I'm just gonna keep eating.
Yep. One other thing I'm going to do, because you may have noticed, I made an alarming amount of this Cowboy Butter. What I'm going to do is over the next, I don't know, hour or so, pop it in the fridge and come whisk it every 20 minutes or so. And then it should whip back in to a, more traditional compound butter. And then...
I'm thinking a little xanthan gum in there, just to really compound it.
Compounded, nice.
Yeah, I feel like I learned that word from you. Yeah. Don't make fun of me.
I said compound in one of my first YouTube videos, and I got roasted in the comments. And my mom, the teacher, also was not proud of me for that one. Combined. Yeah. There should be a past tense of combined, It was compound.
Compounded.
Compounded. But I think once this is whipped back into compound butter form, because it's been smoked for hours at this point, so it's going to have a lot of smoky flavor, especially once it chills in the fridge. I think that's going to be a really cool thing to throw on steaks or in pastas or anything you got, because the flavors are there. And we got this bad boy to gnaw on.
I think you'll save that for the official taste tester. Or not.
Oh my God. It's been so long since I've had a good tomahawk. I'm just enjoying myself.
This is my first time.
Ever? Really?
Never had a tomahawk before. I mean, I've had plenty of ribeyes.
Really?
Yeah.
I've cooked you a tomahawk before.
No.
Wow.
I've seen you cook them.
Well, the rest is yours.
Yeah, that's okay.
Except for this bite, which is for the official taste test. And with this very last bite of tomahawk ribeye, I think it's time for the official taste test. Ooh, now it didn't count. All right, this is actually the very last bite. Ooh. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely fantastic smoky seared tomahawk with some lovely cowboy butter. I highly recommend giving this one a try, I knew it was going to be good, but that sauce was so much more complex than I envisioned, I thought it was going to be more like dipping a steak in butter. Of course, it's going to be good, but it had so much more complexity and interesting notes to it, and it paired incredibly well with that steak. It's salt, fat, acid, and heat all in one condiment. I mean, you can't go wrong. And definitely something I'll be making again in the future. Not to mention, I have a whole bunch of that in compound butter form now in the fridge, which is great. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.